What makes someone the greatest in history? What defines someone as the best in their field, be it an artist, a musician, or a scientist? When asked about their success, one individual famously said, "I am not a genius, I simply have an insatiable curiosity." Another remarked, "Sure, I may not be able to quote famous authors, but I have something far more valuable, experience." From these responses, two key elements emerge: curiosity and experience. And when someone not only masters these qualities in a single field, but excels across multiple disciplines, blending lessons from one into another seamlessly, they become legends. Today, we'll talk about such a person. To some, he is the most talented individual humanity has ever known. Leonardo da Vinci. Think of the Mona Lisa, that enigmatic smile, her eyes that seem to follow you no matter where you stand, or The Last Supper, where the betrayer's posture alone betrays his guilt. Behind these masterpieces lies not just artistic talent, but profound knowledge of anatomy, engineering, science, technology, and architecture. Leonardo wasn't just a painter. He designed autonomous vehicles, flying machines, submarines, and even a bridge for the Golden Horn in Istanbul. Each of these achievements demonstrates a mind that operated on an entirely different plane of existence. Why? Because Da Vinci didn't just see the surface of things, he saw their inner workings. He followed the advice of another Renaissance genius, Leon Battista Alberti, who said, "A good artist must see the human body from the inside out. First its skeleton, then its muscles, then its skin, and finally its clothing, like an anatomist rather than just a painter." And this is part of what made the Mona Lisa so extraordinary. Her gaze, so alive, so human, is the result of Da Vinci's deep understanding of anatomy, gained through years of studying dissected bodies, careful observation, and relentless experimentation. But how did Da Vinci acquire this unparalleled knowledge? Let's explore his journey. Born out of unconventional circumstances, the early life of Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo was born on April 15, 1452, in the village of Vinci, near Florence, Italy. He was the illegitimate son of a 25-year-old notary and a peasant woman. Some argue that Leonardo's greatest fortune was being born out of wedlock. Why? Because his father, Ser Piero, was a notary, a position that, in those times, traditionally would have meant that Leonardo would have followed in his father's footsteps. However, being raised outside of a traditional family structure meant that Leonardo was spared this societal obligation. Can you imagine Leonardo da Vinci spending his life as a notary? It's not that there's anything wrong with being a notary, far from it, but some people just aren't suited to certain professions. From a young age, Leonardo showed signs of his exceptional talents, and his father, realizing his potential, didn't want him to follow that conventional path. Instead, he encouraged Leonardo's talents in other directions. This, too, was one of Leonardo's greatest advantages, a father who recognized and nurtured his abilities. Yet being born out of wedlock also meant that Leonardo couldn't attend the same schools as other children. He did attend a practical school, where he gained valuable knowledge, especially in subjects like mathematics, skills he would later use in his artistic and scientific endeavors. But his formal education was minimal, and most of his learning came through self-study. One of the greatest opportunities Leonardo had was when, at just 12 years old, he moved to Florence to live with his father. At that time, Florence was a hub of the Renaissance, a center of knowledge and enlightenment that would shape the rest of Leonardo's extraordinary life.
arasında.
Leonardo's early talent and his master Verrocchio. Before even turning 15, Leonardo began his apprenticeship with one of the best artists of the time, Andrea del Verrocchio, under his father's guidance. From day one, Leonardo's immense talent was evident. This is reflected in the works produced in Verrocchio's workshop between 1470 and 1475, a period during which Leonardo was an apprentice. One such piece is the Baptism of Christ, a painting thought to be the work of multiple apprentices, with some even attributing it solely to Verrocchio. However, if you look closely at the angel in the painting, you'll notice a stark difference in style from the rest of the piece. While most of the painting is attributed to Verrocchio, that particular angel is widely believed to be Leonardo's work. The contrast in technique is clear. This was Leonardo's signature style emerging, the sfumato technique, which blended objects and figures with soft, blurred transitions, rather than sharp, defined lines. By using this technique, Leonardo left his mark on the painting at a young age, essentially revealing his potential to the world for the first time. In fact, according to some rumors, Leonardo had surpassed his master. It's said that Verrocchio, overwhelmed by the talent of his apprentice, gave up painting altogether after seeing Leonardo's work. Despite Verrocchio's early shortcomings, having received little formal education himself, he was a significant figure in Leonardo's development. For example, in a project Verrocchio took on for a cathedral, where a massive globe was to be placed atop the dome, it is believed that Leonardo played a key role in designing the engineering plans for the placement of that globe. There's even a fascinating rumor about Verrocchio's statue of David. Some suggest that Leonardo himself was the model for this sculpture, with Leonardo allegedly posing for Verrocchio. The idea that Leonardo, at such a young age, might have been the inspiration for such a work is a truly captivating thought. The role of the Medici family in Leonardo's rise. At this point, it's crucial to take a moment and reflect on the atmosphere of the Renaissance, the sparks of innovation and the immense value placed on art, which led to monumental achievements. To truly understand the significance of this, we must acknowledge the influence of the Medici family, particularly Lorenzo de' Medici, also known as Lorenzo the Magnificent, who was Leonardo da Vinci's patron. During this time, the wealthiest families, led by the Medici family, were dedicated patrons of the arts. They understood the importance of art not just as a cultural pursuit, but as a symbol of power and prestige. These families would allocate a portion of their wealth, earned through various industries, towards supporting artists and the arts. They did this either by directly funding artistic projects, or by connecting artists with influential people who could support their work. Lorenzo de' Medici played a key role in this patronage system, personally supporting not only Leonardo, but also other famous artists of the time, such as Verrocchio, Botticelli, Ghirlandaio, and Michelangelo. It was under Lorenzo's guidance and financial backing that the careers of many Renaissance artists flourished. While I am planning a more comprehensive video about the Medici family and their role in sparking the Renaissance, it's essential to highlight how Lorenzo's influence was a turning point in Leonardo's life. It was Lorenzo who introduced Leonardo to Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, which would prove to be a crucial moment in Leonardo's career. Leonardo's move to Milan and his first major patronage. When Lorenzo de' Medici sent Leonardo da Vinci to Milan under the pretense of delivering a musical instrument to Duke Ludovico Sforza, his true intention was to introduce Leonardo to the world stage. Leonardo, of course, seized this opportunity, even though he had just begun to earn money in Florence with a new project. He decided to leave that work behind and head to Milan instead. The project Leonardo left unfinished was significant: the Adoration of the Magi. This piece, commissioned by the San Donato Monastery, is notable for its incomplete yet groundbreaking exploration of perspective, detail, and architecture. In fact, recent imaging techniques have revealed sketches in the piece that had never been seen before. For those interested, this painting is still displayed at the Uffizi Gallery in Florence. Now let's return to Milan. When Da Vinci arrived at the Duke's court, he perhaps brought with him what could be considered the world's first resume. Yes, Da Vinci prepared a CV for the Duke, outlining how he could serve Ludovico. This resume would showcase the talents that would eventually make him the Leonardo da Vinci we know today. Interestingly, while many people recognized Leonardo as an artist, he introduced himself differently. Perhaps to secure his position and impress his future patron, he downplayed his identity as an artist and instead emphasized his skills as an engineer and military strategist. He highlighted his ability to design war machines, siege equipment, bridges, and underwater systems, all of which were highly valuable during a time when wars were rampant. The Duke must have been impressed by Leonardo's resume, where he took him into his service, marking the beginning of a 17-year journey in Milan. During this time, the Duke would benefit greatly from Leonardo's talents. Leonardo's diverse contributions in Milan. While in Milan, Leonardo da Vinci was busy with a wide range of tasks. On one hand, he designed extravagant feasts for the court, and on the other, he created paintings and sculptures. But the Duke didn't stop there. He also asked Leonardo to design weapons, buildings, and machines. Between 1485 and 1490, Leonardo immersed himself in countless projects. He worked on everything that came to his mind, from flying machines inspired by nature, to geometry, mechanics, city planning, canal construction, and architecture. He designed buildings of all kinds, from churches to castles. In fact, he even designed the dome for the Milan Cathedral, one of the largest Gothic cathedrals in Europe, although his design was ultimately not used. During this period, Leonardo also created designs for advanced weaponry, including tanks, other war machines, and even submarines. At the same time, his early anatomical studies began to take shape, marking the beginning of his groundbreaking work in understanding the human body. Leonardo's anatomical studies and the Vitruvian Man. Leonardo's work in anatomy, particularly the famous Vitruvian Man, represents the pinnacle of his wisdom in this field. This drawing, known as the Vitruvian Man, was inspired by the proportions outlined by the famous Roman architect and writer Marcus Vitruvius Pollio in his work De Architectura. The drawing embodies Leonardo's vast knowledge across multiple fields and reflects his overarching philosophy. Leonardo adopted the human-centered philosophy that lay at the heart of the Renaissance, even believing that the perfect proportions of the human body could serve as inspiration for architecture. Leonardo created several versions of the Vitruvian Man, but his version is regarded as the most aesthetically balanced and scientifically accurate. It is scientifically almost flawless. Leonardo didn't just observe the human body. He went beyond that, personally dissecting and documenting over 30 cadavers, meticulously recording every detail. He used his artistic skills to create incredibly precise and detailed drawings, from the cross-section of a skull to the flawless depictions of the human heart. Leonardo's
çizimleri ve eskizleriyle birlikte aldığı notların bulunduğu külliyattan bahsetmek gerekiyor. Külliyat dememizin sebebi de Leonardo'nun bugüne ulaşan tam 6000 sayfadan fazla çizimi bulunuyor. 6000 sayfa. Ve daha da çılgını, tahminlere göre bu tüm notlarının 1/4 bile değil. Bakın, bu inanılmaz bir şey. Böyle bir yeteneğin kaleminden çıkan bu denli detaylı, kapsamlı, sanat, bilim, mühendislik, teknoloji, savaş teknolojisi, mimari ve daha birçok alandan bu kadar fazla kaynağın bulunması tüm insanlık adına büyük bir şanstır. Bırakılabilecek en büyük mirastır belki de. Ve bakın, sayıları boş verin. Çizimlerin, eskizlerin içeriği ayrı bir şaşkınlık sebebi. Bahsettiğimiz gibi gözlemlemek, anlamak bir yana, bunları bu kadar doğru ve estetik biçimde aktarmış olması. Neyse, şaşkınlığımızı bir kenara bırakıp notlarına baktığımızda insan anatomisiyle alakalı detaylı çizimlerin ötesinde o bilim insanı ve mühendis karşılıyor bizi burada. Zamanının ötesinde denmesinin sebebi de bu sayfalarda gizli. Mesela bir makine tasarımı saatte 1 milyon ton toprağı başka bir yere taşıyabilen, su gücüyle çalışan otomatik bir taşıyıcıydı. Bir tank tasarımı vardı mesela. Her yöne ateş edebilen bir tank. Ya da henüz nasıl çalıştığından emin olamadığımız bir tür otonom araç tasarımı da vardı burada. Kimine göre bir robottu bu. Bunun ötesinde bu sayfalarda modern dünyamızın kehaneti de bulunuyor aslında. Bugün kullandığımız birçok aracın, mühendislik projesinin ilham kaynağı gibi de görülebilir. Özellikle uçan makineler konusunda büyük bir takıntısı vardı. Zaten tasarımları sürekli doğadan ilham aldığı için. Uçma hayalinde de kuşlar da onun ilham kaynağı. Genç yaşlardan itibaren notlarında kuşlarla ilgili sayısız tasarım görüyoruz. Aldığı notlarda da kanat çırpışlarının anatomisinden bunların hava ile etkileşimine kadar tüm detayları bulunuyordu. Buradan yola çıkarak bir tür helikopter, takılabilir kanatlar ve bir paraşüt bile tasarlamıştı. Ama bu notlarda bizim tarihimizden de bir iz olduğunu biliyor muydunuz? Şimdi Leonardo'nun binlerce sayfalık notları epey zaman içerisinde toplanmış ve farklı kodeksler olarak bir araya
for the Golden Horn. If you look closely at the corner of the Atlanticus Codex, you'll notice a bridge design that Leonardo created. Do you know where this bridge was meant to be built? It was for the Golden Horn in Istanbul. In 1502, Leonardo da Vinci sent a letter to Sultan Bayezid II in which he proposed a design for a bridge to be constructed over the Golden Horn. This was an ambitious project and quite a bold one, considering the time. The proposed bridge was to be 360 meters long, 24 meters wide, and 40 meters high. These dimensions were enormous for the time, and with the available technology, constructing it seemed nearly impossible. What made this bridge particularly remarkable was that it was to be built with a single arch, allowing ships to pass beneath it without obstructing river traffic. Additionally, the bridge was designed to withstand natural disasters such as storms and earthquakes. Unfortunately, Sultan Bayezid II did not accept this project, likely because of its scale and the costs involved. However, in 2019, researchers from MTI published an analysis showing that Leonardo's original design could indeed be built using materials from that time period, and it was technically feasible. Yet, due to the limited resources available in a city that had only been conquered less than half a century earlier, it is highly probable that the project was not pursued. Back to Milan. Returning to Milan, Leonardo, with the support of Ludovico Sforza, had a hand in many projects. However, there was a problem. As we can tell from his notes, Leonardo's interests were so vast, and his curiosity constantly pushed him toward new topics that he often left many of his projects unfinished. Over the course of his 17 years in Milan, Leonardo only completed 6 works. Many of his paintings and projects were either left incomplete or never realized. He spent much of his time on scientific research, either going out into nature to observe or retreating to his workshop to study cadavers or ponder the mysteries of the universe. The main reason many of his projects were never finished was, unfortunately, that science and technology couldn't keep up with Leonardo's brilliant mind. Many designs that looked perfect on paper never made it past the drawing stage, the Last Supper. However, one of the works Leonardo did complete was the famous Last Supper. Painted on the wall of a small church and monastery in Milan, this masterpiece was once again a reflection of both science and art. Of course, the anatomical knowledge that breathed life into the figures and even conveyed their gestures in the artwork plays a major role. The architectural elements of the painting create an effect that makes you feel as though you are losing yourself in the scene. However, what makes this work so significant is that, in a way, it is a kind of photograph of a moment in time. Let me explain. The Last Supper depicts the moment when Jesus Christ, before being crucified, shared his final meal with his disciples. It shows the moment when Jesus tells his followers that one of them will betray him. Right at this moment, Jesus is saying, "One of you will betray me," and we are witnessing that moment. All the disciples, upon hearing this, react dramatically, each displaying different emotions: shock, anger, questioning, and blame. Leonardo captures these expressions with a profound psychological perspective. The posture of the disciples, gathered as a group, and their interactions with each other bring movement and liveliness to the scene. Leonardo places Jesus Christ at the very center of the composition. His hands are open to the sides, which conveys not only divine authority, but also peace and acceptance of his fate. Judas Iscariot, the disciple who will betray him, is positioned somewhat in the background and in shadow. He is depicted holding a bag of silver, which is believed to symbolize the 30 silver coins he received in exchange for his betrayal of Jesus. Leonardo masterfully handles the theme of betrayal in this scene, with no violence or dramatic movements. On the contrary, everything is processed with emotional depth and controlled calmness. This is perhaps one of the reasons why Leonardo was unable to complete many of his works. The incredible attention to detail that Leonardo gave to his work marked the end of his time in Milan, which came to a close in 1499 with the overthrow of Ludovico Sforza. This marked the beginning of a nearly 15-year period of wandering. Leonardo traveled from city to city, eventually returning to Florence, where his story had begun. There, he gained the support of Giuliano de' Medici, a member of the Medici family, and it was in Florence that he began what he considered the pinnacle of his career, his masterpiece that he would never consider fully completed, Mona Lisa. According to one theory, the painting known as Mona Lisa is believed to depict Lisa Gherardini, the wife of Francesco del Giocondo, and silk merchant living in Florence. The name Mona, which means lady in Italian, thus refers to Lady Lisa. As mentioned earlier, this painting can be seen as the masterpiece in which Leonardo poured all the knowledge he had gathered from various disciplines. Although many people may not immediately understand why this seemingly ordinary portrait of a woman has had such an impact, it takes on a deeper meaning when viewed as a reflection of the mind of a genius with an insatiable curiosity. However, of course, we must also talk about the details. As we mentioned earlier, the most significant feature of the Mona Lisa, painted with the sfumato technique, is undoubtedly her mysterious smile. The mechanism behind that smile can also be seen in his notes, where his sketches of human anatomy show his attempt to understand the movement of the muscles beneath the lips and how they harmonize with the rest of the face. In fact, we see the design of Mona Lisa's lips alone in his notes. Before even starting the painting, Leonardo had already envisioned her smile. As for her eyes, no matter where you look from, they seem to follow you, and this is no coincidence. It stems from his obsessive research into perspective and our sense of sight, extending even to the retina and receptors behind the eyes. As Leon Battista Alberti said, a good artist should be able to see the human body from the inside out, first the skeleton, then the muscles and skin, and finally the clothing. He should be like an anatomist, not just an artist. This is why the Mona Lisa is more than just a valuable painting. It is as if at that moment, Leonardo immortalized the exact expression of the live woman before she started to smile. It is not just about the scientific and anatomical details, but also a manifestation of Leonardo's lifelong desire to blend science with art. After the death of his patron Giuliano Medici in 1516, Leonardo was invited to France by King Francis I, who was a great admirer of his mind. The king provided him with a house near his own castle, situated on the banks of the Loire River, where Leonardo spent the last years of his life in great comfort. He focused on his unfinished works and further refined the Mona Lisa. 3 years later, on May 2, 1519, at the age of 67, he passed away in the same house. According to some sources, he died in the arms of King Francis I, his eyes filled with tears. This was the story of Leonardo da Vinci, who used what he learned from science in his art, giving life to the beauty and complexity of both science and art. He was someone who never received formal education, learning everything through an unstoppable sense of curiosity, observing the world, life, people, and nature. Through the notes he made with his ever-present pen, he left us an extraordinary legacy from a genius. As always, until we meet again, I am grateful for your presence. Best wishes.